Stream button.
I am recording. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Reef.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes the candles to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop up your head.
And welcome to the American Reef Factory Podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
We have an action-packed show for you this winter's night. It is currently, right now, 18 degrees here.
Oh, it's blazing.
20-mile-an-hour wind that makes the wind chill -1.
Okay. Yeah, it was just like -7 this morning.
Yeah. We're not in the negatives until Wednesday, Thursday, when one day it's going to be -11 during the day, and then the other day is going to be -7, but we're going to have a 30-mile-an-hour wind. We're actually having a genuine, like, Alberta clipper, so we're well into the death zone, where it's like you can die outside in 10 minutes unless you're properly clothed, which that sounds a little excessive. You'd have to be compromised, I think, to die in 10 minutes. If you're outside naked and someone's throwing water at you.
No, you just got to be that guy from Britain that can somehow adjust his internal body temperature to survive Arctic temperatures.
Yeah. I would like to be that guy.
Well, it's a process. He has to, like, swim in, like, ice-filled pools and then, like, work up his body composition, and then, you know, yeah, he can just swim off in the Arctic and not die.
Huh. That's unusual.
Yep.
Polar bears have antifreeze in their bodies for that. I have a North Face jacket for that.
I remember there was I'm not sure if it's around, but it was like an interesting thing to help. What's the thing? Is it hypothermia?
Yeah.
That happens when you get really cold and shit.
Yeah.
And it was basically like Mega Man blaster gloves and like things that you put on your feet. They look weird, but it circulates warm water just around your hands and feet, and and somehow that will like save your hands, but also increase your core body temperature. Because I guess you're like, it's like, oh, your hands are warm. Let's start warming up the body.
Well, that's why, like, your high-end Harley Davidsons, BMWs, they have the heated hand grips, and then you wear a heated vest, and your feet, well, you just wear really big boots. But I mean, you're not supposed to ride a motorcycle much. 50 degrees, maybe 45 is about, because you'll get hypothermia at 45 riding a motorcycle. I mean, that happened to a friend of mine. He drove from Florida back to Ohio or something. He got off his bike in Ohio and fell over because he was like weirdly warmed from the engine, but not really clothed properly for I think it was like 42 degrees or whatever. And yeah, he was in the hospital because he fucking had hypothermia. Because, yeah, it'll suck the heat right out of you. But I know it's getting to be real winter when I break, because I broke out the North Face jacket this week, so. Because that has a very limited utility. Because if it's like 30 or 40 degrees, you can forget that jacket. You're going to burn alive. It's like 0 or below, you'll be perfectly, you don't even have to zip it up. You'll be perfectly comfortable. What's weird about it, though, is if you ride in a hot car, it's designed so that you don't really get hot in it. Like, it reacts to the, like, there's, I don't know, the material it's made out of, like, it opens up like pores.
Okay.
Lets all the heat out, but as soon as you get in the cold, you actually feel the jacket get stiff. It's weird. It feels like very sandpapery, and your arms don't move as well. It's like, oh, well, the vents are closing up or whatever weird satanic nanotech stuff's going on. And they don't even make those anymore, so.
I read the story about Elon Musk because his new super rocket, he's making it out of stainless steel.
Okay.
Because I guess it's immediately like, well, isn't that really heavy? But I guess it's a version of it or something that's lighter.
Hmm.
But anyways, I guess the main reason for it is that the interesting property of stainless steel is that when it gets into, what did they call it? Cryogenic temperatures,
Okay.
it actually hardens, but not to a point that it's brittle. It actually just becomes stronger.
Oh, okay.
Which, okay, I was like, oh, that would make sense.
I didn't know that. Of course, I don't know much about the properties of metal.
Yeah.
Or Elon Musk. Now, what is he? Is he a computer science engineer or what?
Yeah, that's where he started. He's
So smart he just thinks his way through things, or is he just more the Steve Jobs idea man?
well, he is an idea guy, but did you ever watch that Joe Rogan interview?
Yeah, it was weird.
Okay, yeah, he seems sort of on the spectrum, but I don't. Maybe he's just
a
weird.
foreigner too, so it's
Yeah,
hard
he's
to
from
tell.
South Africa.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got his start in PayPal. That's why he has all this just like fuck you money laying around.
Yeah, I knew it was PayPal, but I didn't know if he was a computer science guy or some kind of weird electrical engineer, or because he talks like an engineer. But
Yeah, well, I don't know, because like, the quick impression I gathered from that interview is that he is not all these things. Like I think he's a computer guy because that's where he started, or just a business guy.
yeah,
But he is, very knowledgeable. But when they need to get things done, he goes and gets a bunch of engineers and like, can you do this thing? And then they go do it. He's not going to go do it.
okay. I didn't understand because he seems like you ask him very specific things about why won't this fail? Oh well, because of this, or he just seems to always have.
Yeah, I have to, I think he talks to experts, and I think he listens to them, and I think he knows what they're talking about. So then he knows what they're talking.
That's helpful.
So I think he just like retains a lot of information and fucking knows his shit. But I don't think he's like necessarily like the revolutionary idea guy that everything hinges on him. Like, no, he just grabs talented people and has them do shit.
Which makes sense. That's how the real world works. Yeah, because I know a lot of things, but I'm not an expert in anything. But like a lot of the car stuff I know is number one because I work in the business, and number two, I'll just go ask these guys, hey, what about this, this, and that? And they're usually happy to talk to you because I'm not complaining about something. Most people just go up to them and complain. It's like, hey, what are the properties of this aluminum? How did you guys invent this? How are the dyes different? Because and I ask all these questions like. And then I'll usually get answers, except for like metallurgical stuff, which they'll absolutely be like, "Yeah, I'm not. It's just aluminum. That's all we need to say."
7046 aluminum? Great. No idea what that means.
No, they wouldn't even tell me that.
Well, it has a higher grade of carbon versus, what other shit. Yeah.
Well, the reason I came up was because they have this thing. I don't even know how to talk about it. Anyway, everything has a date on it. And you can't run it through processing and assembly past a certain date because it'll actually just break the heads off the rivet guns. It's like, that's weird. Why is that? It's just aluminum, right? Those are just aluminum riveting guns. They're just high speed, high power ones. Well, the metal gets too hard. It's like, oh, but it's not being processed anymore. Yeah. How's that happening? What are we doing? I'm really not going to go into that.
It grabs the loose nitrogen in the air and enriches itself.
It becomes unobtainium. Pretty soon, F-150s will just be driving through brick walls. And the plastic and glass occupants in danger. The metal will never bend. No, they didn't say that, but it got kind of weird. So it's just like, why? What is causing this? Why does it? How does it do that? It's not being. You're not running electricity through it, or because I was saying things like that. I was trying to guess, and I just got this brick wall of like, yeah, we're not talking about it. But, oh, that's cool. I work for them, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to discuss it on my podcast, which of course I am. Nobody knows about that or gives a fuck, which is probably a good thing. But, yeah. Yeah, but see, I like to talk to people, but I don't offer ideas of my own. It's just like I want to know this. I want to know that because I don't know shit. I just want to know, like, well, why is this? As a layman, explain this to me. What is it, and why does that work? But it's all like just manufacturing stuff, like just the high-speed robot welders and stuff. It's like that's cool. I mean, I know that's going to replace me someday and die in the ditch because of it, but it really looks cool. And then you find out, like, for all the strengths that it presents, there's like, oh, there's huge weaknesses. This machine is incredibly capable of doing one thing. However, come time to adapt it, it's like, nope, can't do anything else, just that one thing.
Well, we've ran our machine learning algorithm, and in 20 years, it'll be useful. Just like you.
What did I hear is getting, let's see, what jobs in my sphere are getting a big pay bump? Oh, truck drivers are getting a huge pay bump this year because we're running out of them. They say, like, was it Walmart, Costco, basically all the big box stores you've heard of, most of their truck drivers where they have in-house shipping, which a lot of them do because it's very expensive to go outside, they're just going to be making $90,000 to $100,000 a year. So that's good news until they're replaced by the Tesla trucks. Who else is getting a big pay bump? There were some other jobs I read about. I mean, our chairman of the board gave a very grim speech at NIAS when it closed this week. He basically, Bill Ford Jr. said, yep, we're heading into a recession this year. Brace for impact. That's terrible when the leader of an auto company says, we're already moving to get things to the right size, and because we know it's not going to be good this year. It's like, oh, wow, that's great to hear. If you're giving that speech in public. But he basically said it's because Washington's fucked up, and you can't. He didn't say fucked up, but he's like, you can't deal with those people anymore. We don't know where we're going. We don't know if steel and aluminum is going to cost 5 times as much next year. And we ask, and we just get a dirty look, or we hear about how America's being great again. Or I don't know. He made subtle allusions to like, what's an idiot at the helm, and he's surrounded by idiots. And until he's gone, we're not going to, offer any...
And he's firing those idiots and hiring more idiots.
We're not going to offer any guidance because we have no more... the Illuminati isn't in control anymore. We have no guidance. We just have merry bands in there. That dog. My dog has discovered barking now. And she's... Oh, what I was laughing about when I came in is I told you we're doing the potty bells, right?
Yeah.
She runs up and rings the bells when it's time to go to the bathroom. Well, in training her to do that, she gets a treat. So initially, for a while, it's been like ring the bell, get a treat. She's been trying to get us to randomly, but she associates it with going to the bathroom. But now she gets excited by ringing to the bell, going outside and peeing just a little bit, and then coming in for a treat. So it's become like this. You hear the bell ring every hour now. It's like, Bailey. I know it. Stop manipulating me. I know your brain's the size of an acorn, but you're still trying to use me. Yeah, that's going well. This dog is much different from the last one, even though it's the same breed. So it's Molly was wildly insane and aggressive as a pup, but not in a mean way. Whereas this dog's more laid back but more assertive. Like she wants things her way, and so it's like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And I have a leather fly swatter that behavior. You know I use that, right?
No.
Because plastic has really hard, rigid edges, and leather isn't. And so when you whack them with a leather fly swatter, it's not as potentially hurtful to them, but it gets their attention. I mean, and you're not like swinging for the bleachers. This is just like a tap.
You're not some weird dominatrix for the dog.
yeah. I'm not like breaking out a bullwhip. Indiana Jones, like, you shit on the floor. Fucking break her skin open. No, but it's weird to see a leather fly swatter, but it works. They know what it is. I mean, we're just going off how she was trained initially at the kennel, so we're just continuing that. We're not starting our own thing, because that really gets them confused. It's like they gave us a book full of things that they were doing, and we're continuing to do those things. But we spend a lot more time with her because there's not 50 dogs there. It's just us and her.
I saw a funny sign at work that I never saw before. Where it said, like, it's a picture of a dog inside of a shopping cart. And it says, please don't put your service animal in the shopping cart.
God, they have to tell people that?
Well, it used to be like, no animals allowed unless service animals. But because now anybody can just slap one of those, like, those vests on that says, like, I'm a therapy dog or whatever. Like, now nobody can just tell you not to bring your animal in. Because now you can pretend it's it either is essential or you can pretend it's essential very easily.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So now you have to tell. It's like, all right, you can let your pets in, but don't put them in the fucking shopping cart.
They should have a picture of both pets and, like, the babies where it says don't let the toddlers stand up in the shopping cart, flip over the front. And you just have dog and baby with a circle with a slash. No Nino in Casanta. How do you say that in Spanish? Well, our car, Stacy's car, whenever you press the button and turn the car off, it says, "Look in rear seat. Make sure no one is there," or has something like that.
Huh.
It basically says, "Don't leave your kids in the car, dumb fuck." Because if it senses any weight in the back seat, because she's got like a nursing bag.
Yeah.
Because if you take the bag out of the back seat and there's no weight in there, it never dings at you and says that. But if it senses weight back there, it's like, look in rear seat. Make sure your spawn is not going to suffocate in the car.
I have my battery jumper pack in the passenger seat, and every once in a while, if it just sits in the right spot, it's like, holy shit, put your seatbelt on!
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
It's okay, car. Nobody's there.
If I put my lunchbox in the passenger seat, it'll tell me to put the seatbelt on the lunchbox, and it'll say airbag disabled, weight too low. Or something like that. Thinks it's a little kid in the.
Yeah.
It's like, and then it'll remind me in the next. It'll scroll through and say that, and then another message will come up. Children should be in the back seat of cars. Yeah, it's just like all kinds of little instructions for me, and I just want to say, "Fuck off, car." You know what I'm doing. Thank you.
Yeah, but you know, enough people don't know what they're doing, but that's a concern. This is probably saving at least 1 to 2 lives a year.
Well, you know those backup cameras they mandated on all cars, like in 2014 or whatever.
Oh, they did. But that's a mandatory now.
Mandatory thing.
Okay,
now.
that's cool.
You have to have those. They came and talked to us about it because they kind of integrated it into some of the older cars we were still making, but for the new cars they were going to have because it used to be like the old ones, they just had a little screen in your IP or your dashboard, but now they've gone to the bigger screens and they have the sensors and they beep because they said 500 kids a year are just driven over by their parents because they don't know, because you're right behind the car, they're not going to see you. Even if you look behind you, you're not going to see them, especially if it's like a van or something or a SUV. So that's why they put those cameras in, because they said like 500 people a year would get killed just being run over by their cars.
Yeah.
And that's why another thing like mine, if you have it in drive and take your seatbelt off and just jump out of the passenger, or if you get out of the driver's side and it's not in park, it's in drive, but it's not at speed, it's like it's just resting there, it automatically it goes to park.
Huh.
So like leave it in gear and it just drives off. Like if no one's in the driver's seat, it's like, okay.
Now I'm just immediately imagining, remember that one lady like drove her kids into a lake, like the weird and she can't do
it was like, yeah, she was killing her kids.
Now I'm just imagining like the folly of her like with a newer car trying to do that. It's like, god damn it.
Goodbye, kids. Jumps out the just stops like, oh, damn it.
And then she doesn't know about it. It's like, I guess God is giving me a sign.
Yeah.
So she turns the car off, puts it in neutral, and pushes it.
Yeah, if you put it in neutral. No, wait, no, it won't. If you get out of the car and it's in any gear other than park, and it's not moving, it'll automatically go to park.
Huh.
Now, if you're rolling and you jump out of the car, I imagine it'd keep going. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. But I'm sure.
We got idiots on the internet to do that.
Yeah, we just planted a seed now that will lead to massive lawsuits. But sometimes it's like when I went to work Tuesday, it was nothing but rain the night before, and then it snowed, and then it froze. And it's like I thought I was going to have to run a rope out to my car to get to it. There was so much ice on the ground, and I was like, well, I did leave an hour early, so I gave myself some time. But I was thinking, it's like, man, should I go? It's terrible out here. And of course, driving through the subdivision and stuff, it was like, well, this is nothing but ice. And I was getting the warning on my dash, like it would come on and say traction engage, traction engage. It never fucking slipped. I never felt unsafe. I mean, of course, again, I wasn't pushing it. Like, let's see what I could do. Grabbing the wheel, but it's like all the way to work. I just drove 45 in the center lane because they hadn't thrown ice or salt or anything down, so it was just nothing but ice everywhere. And it did fine. Occasionally, the light would come on, like, traction, but it never, it's all computer controlled, so it does whatever it's doing. It's not what I'm doing, but I'll tell you, sometimes that all-wheel drive's nice in wonky conditions because it's just, oh, okay, I can still just drive.
Yeah, I think of the first big snow here, there was like a lot of. I watched cars. Like, does everybody just have bald tires and just front-wheel drive? Because I watch people like struggle to get up a hill. I was like, oh fuck, better slow down. Like, this is gonna be a nightmare. And then like, no problem.
Yeah, no, it's. Subaru, that's like all they do. Like,
yeah.
Product.
Well, I really like about the Subaru is that it's basically has the ground clearance of like a Ford Ranger.
Yeah.
Like it's really high off the ground, and then it has all-wheel drive. But that's why I hated I really love my Fusion, but the one thing I hated about it was driving in snow because I don't know, like I don't know if yours is higher or not than the older ones, but like the my Fusion was like really low to the ground, like almost sports car low to the ground.
Yeah. Stacy's is in your generation, and or the one Grayson's drives that's your generation. Yeah, that is low to the ground. And
it probably would have been hell if it had all-wheel drive, but I only had front-wheel drive, and it has big tires on the car for its size. So a lot of problems like because it's low to the ground, the front of the car, if it's 3 inches or higher, it just becomes a fucking shovel. So it just buries itself in the snow. And then because it's bigger tires, it's churning up a bunch of snow, and then it's just catching in the wheel wells, and then it just like becomes slick on all sides.
Yeah, those were not good. Mine is higher off the ground. I don't know if mine's higher off the ground because it's all-wheel drive or that platform's higher off the ground. I'm not sure. I know the all-wheel drives are different. Like instead of one shock absorber, it has 2 per thing, and I know if you gotta like do any work on it, it's horribly expensive. But I've never had the snow does not get in the wells on that. But then again, it's not flicking it up in the wells either because it has 2 drive wheels, and really it has 1 primary drive wheel. It has all 4, so because Audi did a good job of engineering that, and then we just like, yeah, we'll do that. Wait, do you want to buy a patent? No.
It's cool.
Took one apart. We know what's going on. Lawsuit settled, though. They decided to partner with us. So now that we're getting rid of cars, they don't care. Well, the Fusion will come back, but it will be a station wagon with high ground clearance and all-wheel drive. So it'll be a Subaru. A Ford Subaru. But that's all it's going to be. There's not going to be a sedan version of it. It's just going to be a station wagon with high ground clearance.
Yeah.
So
will it be still called the Fusion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know when it's going to come out. I mean, the Bronco was supposed to debut at the auto show, and it didn't. So
is that new Ranger out?
I see them driving around all the time, but they're all like test trucks, so I don't know if it's to the public yet.
I saw you threw up some posts about the new Lincoln with the suicide doors, and apparently they sold out of it.
Yeah, that's $100,000, whatever the one they're making now, Continental. That's a special version of the one they already make.
Yeah.
That's just a one-off. That's not going to be like a continuous thing.
Yeah.
Made it to like like the old Lincolns where the doors, flip the hinges around. No, the thing they came out with that was insane. Well, there was a few things. The Lincoln, what's the new one called? Why am I thinking Matador? That's an AMC.
Is it actually? It's not like a bunch of letters like MHZ or some shit.
No, they're getting away from that. That pissed everyone off because they couldn't. It's the mini. It's the smaller version of the Navigator. What is it? It's not the Aviator. That came and went. It's the I can't think of it. It's one Matthew McConaughey drives in all the new Lincoln ads.
Oh.
It's nice looking though. It really looks. It's kind of lower to the ground. It's not as truck-like as the Navigator. I don't know.
The Lincoln Conquistador.
No, it's got a weird name. It's not Aviator. It's not Navigator. I don't know. Whatever. It's not all I'm able to afford, so what do I care? And then of course the new Shelby Cobra Mustang. It's like the horsepower game. It's like who can produce the most powerful production vehicle, and 750 horsepower to 950 horsepower right off the assembly line to your door. I still don't think that anyone can beat the Dodge.
Hellcat or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's.
I can't. Was that a Challenger variant or a Charger variant?
I think what's the one they make now?
Well, they make both. They make both.
What's the long old '60s looking one? The 70s.
Challenger.
Challenger. Yeah, I think it's a Challenger variant. I don't think the Mustang has as much power as that, but it's a lot faster because it's a smaller car. Because the Mustang is actually like, when they do a Shelby Mustang, they're not just horning a big, powerful engine in a standard body. They're making the suspension and everything, and it's very European kind of tuned suspension. And yeah, those Mustangs are frightening.
And I saw
one in my life, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, Jesus, you drive this every day?
I saw a documentary when they were it was like 10 years ago when they were again bringing back the Shelby Mustang.
Yeah.
And so they had their engine in a like a 90s Mustang, like they were just testing the engine. And you could
box body.
Yeah, and you could see the front of the fucking car twist as they accelerated.
Yeah, they weren't designed for that.
Like, that's cool. That's going to fuck up that car, but who cares?
Yeah, it's just a test bed. So, yeah, that's, I don't know who. But yeah, like I said, no Bronco. Everyone's waiting on that. Didn't debut. So I don't know. But that wasn't supposed to come out this year. They said it might, and then they decided they want to get it right, which means it's way too expensive right now, so they got to figure out a way to.
When OJ's star power has died down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that documentary won an Oscar. Like, let's hold back on this.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the guys that worked at the plant where they made those. They were saying as soon as that happened, the orders went through the roof. Everyone wanted a white Bronco like that. And those were horribly expensive, even at the time.
Yeah.
And because they're full-time four-wheel drive. I mean, they just like 8 miles to the gallon. Terrible. That's the thing is about people, like they think trucks like that look cool until you look into owning them, and then you realize, oh my God, this thing you couldn't pour gas on the ground fast as this thing. I don't know. The new one's not going to be like that. The new one's going to be like the one in the 60s. Like a small one.
Oh, like almost like was it the Toyota GT40 or a Jeep Wrangler or whatever?
Yeah, it's going to be more like what it originally was in the 60s. It's not going to be like it's just a truck with a, shortened body and a little wider wheel.
But not the Bronco 2.
No, it's not going to be that. People love those, though. People that had those really loved them. There's a problem with them. Those are what killed the Bronco too. Well,
it could roll backwards because it was like was it rear wheel drive or something? Like,
Yeah, sure it was. Yeah.
but it was like it was too short for how powerful the engine was, and it could basically just like kick itself up in the air and
Yeah.
roll backwards.
It was small. Well, it was a Ranger. It was just built on a Ranger.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, they got shitty mileage too. Chevy reintroduced the Blazer, which just looks like a weird SUV to me. I don't know who else came out with anything. Oh, the Toyota Supra is back.
Huh?
Crazier than ever.
Is it boxy or curvy?
It's Lotus-like. Reminds
Okay.
me of a Lotus Elise or something.
Because that's like that. Whenever there's like a new change, it's like it's always they either go from curvy to boxy or the other way. Like it's like let's put more curves on it. It's like no, let's make it look like it's a box but with angles, man.
Yeah, no, this one's more curvy. And it's actually a sports car this time instead of a sports car sample. Yeah, that's. So, I mean, some of the Supras were badass, and some of them were stupid.
Yeah.
They had the weird flip-up headlights and shit, but it looked cheap. It's like, well, that's not really the look you're going for.
Was there a purpose to putting the side view mirrors like all the way in the front of the car?
I don't know.
Because I saw like it was like a recent trip. Someone was in Japan, and like they had that on like normal cars there, and it's like, oh, I just thought that was a weird '70s Japanese car thing. It's like, no, they're still doing it.
Might be so you can see what's coming.
Yeah, I imagine it can maybe like give you a wider field of view, but like that's like I don't know, it's like wouldn't you have to like squint at that shit?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't understand. I mean, if you're just like, oh, I see movement, because that's a couldn't get any detail out of that. Or maybe it just looks cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird things with cars. And they definitely have a weird style of. I mean, when they make fast cars, though, they don't fuck around. Like the Skyline, that's a scary car. You can't even sell that here.
Yeah, that would be from my time in racing simulators like Forza and shit like that, and Gran Turismo. That would be like my car. Like if I actually knew how to drive it from a simulated perspective, it'd be like a 2007 Nissan Skyline GTR. That would be my car.
Those are nuts.
Super fast acceleration, all-wheel drive. Great.
Four-wheel steering. A lot of shit to go wrong. Like Grayson showed me this funny video. It was supposedly these guys rebuilt. Or the joke, they actually had one, but they said we rebuilt a Tiger tank from the ground up using all original blueprints, all original parts. We rebuilt a German Tiger tank from World War II, and they drove it 3 feet, and they're like, "Oh, the transmission broke." It's one of those. This was the baddest thing in the world, except it was broke all the time. You ever seen those YouTube video guys that don't buy a used Lamborghini or whatever? Because they'll buy these Lamborghinis that look really nice, and then they're just like all fucked up, and they go back to the dealer, and it's like, that'll be $10,000 for that or something. It's like, oh my god, who does that? Or then like a guy had a Maybach that he bought at an auction, and there were some things wrong with it, and it was like one of the crazy sedans with the V12 engine and all that. And
Yeah.
of course, it's got to have the supercharger on it, because why not? Yeah, he brought it to the dealership because it was making a noise. It was like $26,000 to fix it. And it didn't even have, it had like 38,000 miles on it or something. It's like, what happened? He's like, well, you bought a Maybach. It's shit. There's not like a huge pool of parts.
It's just a fucking boat on land.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's cool and it works, so then you gotta pay for it.
Yacht fees.
It was those Bugatti Veyrons, like the tires on those were like $20,000 a piece or some crazy shit like that.
Yeah, it's mostly carbon. Just a little bit of rubber in it. What did I hear about the Bugattis? I think there's a faster car now, isn't
Oh, other than another Bugatti?
Yeah.
Oh, probably.
Almost, I don't know. Everyone's always
Probably, what was that? McLaren probably made one or
Yeah.
something. They're back in the game.
Yeah, I love the McLaren with the 3 seats. Put the driver in the middle, and I'm thinking, yeah, actually that makes a lot of sense, especially for a car like that. It's like, why do you need a passenger seat, and steering wheel, right or left? Put them in the middle. I guess that's illegal now in America.
Huh.
You can't have the driver in the middle. I don't understand why. You could put more meat between him and anything that would hit him. But
Yeah. And you can have right-handed drive cars, so fuck it. Who cares? Or does that require some weird exemption?
I don't know. I've never looked. I know the guys that have the guys I used to follow that had the Mad Max Interceptors in America. A lot of those guys, the purists, would always stay right-hand drive. But the guys who actually like to drive them, they always moved everything over to the left because they said, yeah, nothing funner in America than making a left turn in a right-hand drive car with a big blower stick. Well, good luck, everyone. Here we go.
I remember Andrew was looking at getting a right-hand drive car for when he was working for the post office because he was on the rural routes.
Oh, yeah. Did he find anything?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think...
It's like, well, am I going to invest, like, fucking 20 grand into this job?
Yeah, because they're not providing you with one.
No.
How does the post office drive around here? And they had those weird space vans forever. Oh, now they're driving the like the small Sprinter vans.
Okay.
The ones that are they're basically in America they're branded as Dodge, but in the rest of the world they're the Mercedes Sprinter vans, but they're the same damn thing.
Huh.
They're all made at the same plant, and I think they still co-partner. Or no, in America they put them under the Dodge name so you can sell them. 'Cause, like, the government cannot buy shit from Mercedes-Benz deliver mail. But yeah, I see a lot more of those for mail delivery. Well, because now they're like a package delivery service because they're just mainly the post office is now Amazon's. They might as well just call it the post office, brought to you by Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Yeah, because Amazon used to be almost exclusively UPS, and then they switched over to the postal service for a lot of their shit.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. You know, I know our post office guy is always coming up to the door with something for me from Amazon. And yeah, now he just opens the side of the van and grabs it, or the back. Yeah, that's exciting.
Mail
So-
delivery.
Yeah, mail delivery. It's like watching paint dry. So what? The movie with most recent movie with Ryan Gosling about Neil Armstrong, First Man. How was that?
It was okay.
Was it?
Um.
Did Ryan Gosling try? Did he just stare at the camera a lot in this
Yeah.
too?
Uh huh.
Good.
Yep.
I like that about him.
I mean, that might, because I don't know Neil Armstrong personally, so that might have actually been. It's like, oh, Neil Armstrong is just like Ryan Gosling in all his movies. Just forlorn and staring and very quiet.
He was a very He was kind of like an introverted person.
Yeah, I don't know, because like, the you gotta look up the reviews on this because they are fucking hilarious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, this is a hit job on human or what would you call it? Human accomplishments. Because it's not a movie that's just like making him a hero and shoving fireworks up his ass, showing like what a great person he was, and like, because like all see all the stuff where it's like, they're all fighter pilots and they all bought a fucking Stingray Corvette and all this other shit, and like, look how cool these astronauts are. This movie is just like, yeah, I got a family and I got a job. I'm good at my job because I do the work. There's stuff I didn't know because I didn't know. It starts off where he's in like the training program, and I didn't know he had a daughter, and she died when she's like, I don't know, like 3 or something. She had a brain tumor in 1961. I didn't know about that. So that kind of like haunts him the entire movie in some way, or at least you.
I can see that.
Well, I don't know if he's like explicitly thinking about it, but because the movie starts with that, it kind of like colors everything like, from there on. And it's never like he's never the number one guy. There's just a lot of accidents and stuff that happen. Then like you're the guy. That's kind of what happened.
Oh, okay.
There's some interesting stuff I didn't know, like the what was that? Also, Mom and Dad were watching it, and I went up there, and the first question I asked is like, did y'all motherfuckers call that shit Jiminy in the 60s? And she's like, Gemini. Like, I fucking know that. Everyone in this fucking movie says Jiminy.
That's weird. Is there some choice they made to be?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's fucking Project Gemini. But I get the thing about that was about rendezvousing with the objects in space.
Yeah.
So that's what deal with the orbital mechanics. That's what like Buzz Aldrin. That was like his whole thing. And Buzz Aldrin's movie is just a fucking asshole. So that's kind of a weird.
Isn't he really though in real life?
Probably.
Yeah.
But he's also charming. But that's like probably what makes him he's just willing to say what's on his mind. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so
Just an engineer. I mean, that's the thing. Is like he's not. They didn't pick these guys for their personality.
so like Gemini is a twin. So like the thing is like so they had 2 rocket launches at the same time, and they had to intercept with an object from the other rocket, and then like try to detach from it, and then like some shit went crazy, and like they like spun out of control and like barely made it back to Earth.
Wow.
So I didn't know about that stuff. That stuff was pretty interesting. They shoot it in a really like peculiar way, like where a lot of the rocket launches, it's not like Apollo 13 where it's like bold close-ups and then like wide angle shots of like the massive. It's all like inside the cockpit and a lot of weird, almost horror movie sound design. Like that sounds frightening. Which probably saved them a lot of money, but it was also an interesting way I'd never really like seen it before. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you had the right stuff.
Hey, you've seen this stuff on TV, so it's like,
Yeah.
let's give you the thing you didn't see.
Yeah, it's like everyone knows what the Saturn rocket looks like taking off from the outside. What if you're inside that thing and just shaking, and you're probably hearing weird noises?
But yeah, this movie is more of a it's more of a drama, unless why I like space stuff movies is just like kind of the engineering accomplishments, what problems they had to solve, and this is less about that and more about sort of the drama of Neil Armstrong's life. And it's based on a book, and like he was very private, I guess, and so the guy who wrote his biography, had to hound him for years and say like I'm gonna do this right, like I'm not gonna make you look one way you don't want to look. And so like the kids like said that this portrayal of him was the most accurate they've ever seen.
Oh, really?
And like I said, the reviews are hilarious because they just want to see fucking Neil Armstrong G.I. Joe astronaut.
He has feelings? Fuck that. Don't be a pussy. Yeah, that's. I know there was some controversy about not shooting the scene where they put the American flag on the moon,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, "This is un-American."
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like they said it was like a bunch of Canadians make this movie because the director's Canadian and Ryan Gosling's Canadian. So,
Yeah.
so like people are trying to pick at it a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. That was a fine movie. I haven't seen the guy's other movies. I need to. Like, I hear Whiplash is really good, and I don't really want to watch La La Land, but I guess I have to at some point.
Damien Chazelle
Yeah.
from Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, is he not from Canada? Okay.
Well, it says he's French American, so he might have like dual things.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, he's a French and American citizen. He went to Harvard.
Huh. Not sure, I guess, yeah.
Who goes to Harvard to film school?
I mean, it's all there.
I didn't think they did stuff like that there.
I
was
mean-
thinking Harvard is like business school and medical school
Yeah, or law.
or law. Yeah, people still do that.
Oh yeah, you make tons of money. It's like not actually have to have a skill, just be able to argue shit until people give you money.
It's a good skill.
Um,
Yeah, my go-to movie for this stuff was always The Right Stuff, which was just a pure drama. It was a cool movie,
yeah.
but like, it was there's not. I mean, other than it, like they're named the same as the people that actually did this stuff. It's like there's a lot of. That was a Tom Wolfe book, so it kind of took the space, the American space program, and made it like big and dramatic and cool. But it wasn't exactly like actual factual.
And From Here to the Moon's really, really good. That was Tom Hanks and stuff, basically making, like the band of brothers of the NASA program.
Yeah, I've seen that. I enjoyed that.
It's good, but that one's just like that's the one I want, where it's like, here's the problem, here's how we solve it, and then like everyone's just having fun, which may not be true, but it's the myth you want to tell.
The thing I liked about Apollo 13 was the problem-solving aspects of it. Yeah,
Well, that's the kind of movies I really like. That's why The Martian was just a fucking great movie.
yeah, that's cool. But yeah, The Right Stuff is probably like the go-to movie if you want a movie about American space program and drama
Yeah,
and likable, good actors. But again, it's not. It's not it's kind of true history, but it takes a lot of that dramatic license. Yeah, that's what they dramatic license. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out.
what was Chariot? That was Chariots of Fire. Wasn't that about the astronauts as well? What the fuck was that? Or was that about runners or some shit?
About Runners.
Okay.
No, The Right Stuff was the one that came out the same year as Chariots of Fire.
Oh, okay.
It was the same kind of big dramatic production, though.
Did they both have like scenes where people are running on a beach or some shit? Is that why I'm confusing or conflating the two?
I think so.
Okay. But Chariots of Fire just had the Vangelis soundtrack.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, The Right Stuff was 1983. I mean, you had Scott Glenn, Ed Harris, Lance Henriksen, Dennis Quaid, Sam Shepard, Veronica Cartwright, Fred Ward. I had like almost every big actor you could think of at the time. It was also the only other movie made by the production company that produced Blade Runner too,
Huh.
and it lost money.
Well, of course.
Of course,
That's what you do. Let's make some art. Let's lose some money.
Well, it cost $27 million to make. It made $21 million. Won 8 Oscar nominations, and it won 4, and was considered a failure. Not critically, but financially. I know it's like 3 hours long though, and this is
Okay.
3, so that might be a little.
Yeah, nowadays they really know how to milk the Oscar stuff to kind of get your, because like January's usually dead, so it's like, oh, the Oscar hype is here, like let's put this back into theaters. And
Yeah.
I remember like the King's Speech, like it's like it came out, did okay, but then like they brought it back out, and then like it basically just like did twice its box office, twice what it did in its first run.
Yeah, wasn't that the last of the Weinstein
Yeah,
manipulate the Oscars type
Yeah.
movie?
yeah.
Before he got revealed to be a horrible dick man. Okay, I'll check that out. Sounds kind of like in my.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, it's an okay movie, and like I said, like it's not like I'm gonna feel awesome. It's just kind of this dour movie about this fucking space program, because it's not really about the space program. It's about Neil Armstrong.
Yeah. Which is cool. I don't know much about Neil Armstrong.
Yeah, I just it's one of those things like you just know the name and the moment, and you just assumes like, oh, like, well, he's the guy. He must have been an amazing person.
Yeah, and actually, he was just kind of a sad guy.
What are you doing?
I didn't mean to do that. I bumped something. So I watched something you suggested to me. Yeah.
The Fall of the Simpsons.
Yeah. Hold on, let me fix this. It's not having a 4 there is bothering me.
I put it down there like that because otherwise it doesn't show up on. It gets cut off by the video on. So I should put some tabs on there, so everything really lines up.
But yeah, it was which one was it? The Fall of the Simpsons, produced by someone. I don't know.
That's some British guy.
Yeah, and he actually was a pretty succinct, good breakdown of like, this is what I like about The Simpsons. This is what when it first came out. These were all the writers, and then it showed like this is when all the writers left, and we have a new showrunner, and this is when it started dying, and this is why. Showed how the jokes were different, and
I thought
it had a through line about how. Well, the thing I liked is like when it started in the 80s, it was mocking the culture around it, and now, or from like 2008 on, it's like it is the culture, and it's just a weird reflection of it, and it's not as effective.
Or it became the culture it was mocking back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like when they showed that clip of fucking George H.W. Bush like saying less like The Simpsons and more, I can't remember the other thing, but it was like he fucking bothered to point yeah. It was like why would you bother? You're just gonna give them more publicity.
Yeah, well, that's George W. Bush's, being he died recently, I guess we can talk about it. His campaigns, both of them, were pretty ugly, and his second one was really weird because that's when Bill Clinton was kind of the hip guy that played he played the saxophone on which show was it?
Oh, Arsenio Hall.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this guy plays the saxophone, and he goes jogging and winds up at McDonald's like everyone else. And there was a comedian made a joke about that, but yeah, that's George H.W. Bush was trying to be kind of relevant and hip too by making cultural references. There was a lot of speeches during his campaign against Bill Clinton that were just really, he said weird things like that. And then of course he gave the fucking New World Order speech, which like, yes, let's feed every conspiracy to the moon in the next for the next 40 years.
But turned into a great ministry song, so
yes. But yeah, George H.W. Bush had a lot of weird things about he's trying to be like culturally relevant, and he's not because he's just a politician in the model of Ronald Reagan and kind of that era. And so yeah, that was when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that probably came directly from the campaign against Bill Clinton that he lost barely. Well, he lost to Ross Perot, and then Bill Clinton happened to sneak in for the win.
But I thought it was weird in this videos there was like no mention of Dana Gould because he was like a showrunner for like 6 years.
Yeah,
and like they just didn't mention him at all. It's like I think he was a writer, and this is like not mentioned.
I think this guy had a point he wanted to make, and he wanted to pull the.
Well, he focused on Conan O'Brien as much as he could.
yeah, I saw a lot of Conan O'Brien, which this guy was like an Irish guy or something, so that makes sense, or from somewhere over there.
Yeah.
The podcast was based in Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's it was interesting. Check it out, you know.
Well, yeah, and I like the term for the current Simpsons is called Zombie Simpsons, which I didn't know that was a thing at all.
Oh yeah, I heard that before because I know they were worried like 2 years ago their ratings were getting so low. It was getting to the point like, is this worth even putting on anymore? Like, are we selling enough advertisements to justify the cost of this? But it seems to still be going.
Yeah, well, they have a whole animation block, with Family Guy and all that stuff, so it kind of just coexists.
Yeah.
It's not like Simpsons is keeping itself around. It's just this whole block is keeping itself around.
Yeah. But
Of
that's
Bob's Burgers and Family Guy and The Simpsons.
Bob's Burgers is one I could never. I could say I watched The Simpsons for a solid 10 years, and Family Guy I still watch. And South Park I still watch, even though that's a different network. But yeah, Bob's Burgers I tried to, and it's like this is almost too dark and weird.
No, I wouldn't say that. I don't know. It's from some of the people that did home movies for cartoon or no, Adult Swim.
Okay.
But yeah, I love Bob's Burgers. I think it has just enough alternative to it where it's like you'll never guess where it's going.
Yeah, I mean it is. I just the
And
kids are.
And there's always like a charming element where it's like, everybody pulls it together at the end, or even though they like just like actively hate each other, seemingly sometimes. There's a really funny one where it's a Gene. Like somebody tells him that like, the room is soundproof or something. He's like, "You mean I can go in there and I can say whatever I want and nobody will hear me?" He's like, "Yes," and then but like for some reason the room wasn't soundproof at the time. And he runs in there and he goes, "I love my family." And he opens up the door and is like, "Oh, I just had to get that out," because he didn't think anybody heard him.
Oh, that a secret. I'm trying to think of what the kind of the weirdest, creepiest characters on there are like his daughters, especially the older one.
Yeah, well, it probably doesn't help that they're like voiced by men. It's like you
Yeah.
have all these female characters. It's like, let's not hire any women voiceover talents.
And then like because I watched like one of the first episodes and she was making a hamburger that like came with candy. And it's like, we're going to call this one the child molester. We're kids. What the fuck? And the fact it's a little kid saying it is like, oh, this is weird. There are some good ones, though. I mean, they have the things that involve, like, the whole block and the whole city.
Yeah.
Like, the health sector that was pretty good.
No, I've liked it all. Like it's like 8 seasons in, and I can say I've never seen a bad season of Bob's Burgers, but it's kind of but it's also kind of my kind of weird. Also, I just really like Eugene Merman. He voices Gene.
Oh, okay.
And Kristen Shaw, she voices the the sort of evil sister. So
Now,
she's
the guy
really...
that voices Bob is the same guy that does Archer, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought.
John H. Benjamin. That's when he had like 3 shows at the same time. He had Archer, Bob's Burgers, and John Benjamin Has a Van.
Oh, okay.
Which is only had 1 season, but it was a crazy fucking skit show. Where the whole concept is that, Comedy Central gave him a van and he drives around and things happen.
It's a good idea. So I want to hear about your Christmas present.
Oh, yeah, I got my Thrustmaster something. Thrustmaster is the name of the company, but they make a bunch
That sounds more like those dragon dildos.
Man, I wanted to they have like a fucking so they make a flight stick. It's a Warthog flight stick, and the flight simulator I have is A10 Warthog DCS simulator. And they make a Warthog stick. It's considered like one of the best flight sticks out there. Unfortunately, each piece costs about $250, and you can get them in a package for like $430.
Okay.
I was not gonna spend that much on it. So, yeah. So this is just a regular ass flight stick.
Oh, okay.
You can swap this stuff to be left-handed if you want. There's some buttons on here. There's a thrust control thing. But so I got the whole thing. So it's what's called a HOTAS setup. Hands-on throttle and stick.
Okay.
So this is the throttle.
Okay.
So like you hold both in your hand at the same time, and so you control the speed and stuff like that, and you have other buttons on here all over. It's even this weird paddle thing up here.
Wow.
And then also got some rudder, some foot pedals and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So this goes like that, and they also go up and down. But these do not work in the flight simulator. I have to figure all this shit out. Because I was hoping that if I plug this stuff in, because, you know, the thing that it's meant for, I was hoping it had some sort of, like, recognizable profile, and it would just, like, load all the buttons in. It does not do that.
No.
So I gotta find somewhere to find all this stuff. Because it is a real-ass flight simulator. There's a thing called instant action where it'll just put you in the air, and you can, like, you know, point the plane around and fire the gun and stuff like that, but I really have no idea what I'm doing because this game is so crazy because it mimics every button that's actually in the fucking cockpit. So every button on the keyboard has a function, including the left shift plus all the keyboard and the right shift plus all the keyboard, control left shift plus all the keyboard. So it mimics the keyboard like it's 6 different times to mimic all the buttons in the fucking cockpit.
Oh my god.
Because there on Giant Bomb they used to have a video section. It was called Flight Club, where they'd hop into different flight simulators, and they'd do it like hardcore, like full on simulation. So like the first hour of the video is them trying to figure out how to take off from the plane without crashing.
Okay.
Older planes, there's less stuff to do and less buttons, but for like things like the A-10 Warthog, to take off the plane, you have to like turn on the APU, which is the auxiliary power unit, which is basically like just putting electricity in the plane, so then you can start the engines, and then the engines have to like power the rest of the plane, and then you have to turn off the auxiliary power unit, like, and all the actual stuff steps that require you to actually fly the plane, you have to do if you put it in full simulation.
Huh.
But yeah, I have to. This requires a lot of in-depth work that I have not done yet. Where like I'll have to either find some sort of profile where all the buttons are already mapped, or I'll have to like go through and physically map all the buttons to
That
the
sounds like a
flight.
good way to kill a Saturday.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was looking at that F-14 one. It's not even out. It doesn't come out till next year. It's also $71, and I was like, "Don't I already have something?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I already own the A-10 Warthog one." So I was just trying to learn how to fly around in the A-10 Warthog, which I did not successfully. Yeah, it doesn't have great tutorials, but there's a lot of stuff online that you can get. Like, yeah, so like in the Flight Club thing, like the guy he literally had like a legal pad of notes to take off with the plane. And that was condensed from a PDF that he found online. It's like, all right, this is too much. I'm going to condense this down to something I can actually follow. But yeah, I almost want to get just the throttle control. Because and you'll never use this, but a cool thing about the Warthog throttle is that it's actually split. So you can control individually throttle 2 of the engines at different speeds and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But like you'll never use it. It's just like, oh, that's cool. I can do that.
Yeah, just in case one's damaged. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I'll either never use this or I'll get way into flight simulators.
Get deep into flight simulators. Well, that seemed, yeah, I wanted to talk about that because that seemed kind of cool. I saw that on the notes.
But yeah, and this is like relatively inexpensive stuff, but it works fine for me. Yeah, it gets all that simulator stuff gets crazy expensive. So.
Yeah, some people go deep.
But it can also hook up into VR, which that'd be cool.
Oh, really?
Because I was thinking
that's
about
when flight simulators are going to go to the next level.
I mean, yeah, you can already do that, but I don't know if there's anything to like control like I don't know if you can like go in and like virtually flip all the switches or not, or if it just allows you to look around in 3D. But yeah, I have another game called Elite Dangerous, which is a space flight simulator thing.
Oh, okay.
And again, I have to set that up because that even has less like pre-recognized controls. Because when I was at PAX South, they had it set up where you could fly it, and like they put the VR helmet on you, and you gotta kind of like feel around for the controls. But the cool thing about that is that you could do that Battlestar Galactica shit. Because normally the way it flies is you're in space, but it flies like an airplane. Like you just point in the direction, you go in the direction you're pointing. But with this, you can like, I forget, it was like turn off assist mode, and that's where you control all the thrusters. So if you thrust in one direction, you'll keep going in that direction until you stop.
Okay.
So you have to like counter your own stuff in order to like, but you can do that shit where you're like, you're flying forward, you flip the ship around, you're still continuing in the direction you were going, but now you're going backwards and you shoot at things behind you.
Good idea.
But that was not automatically mapped to this control setup, so it's something you have to set up yourself. But so eventually this shit will be cool.
Yeah, after a lot of work.
Well, there's a new game coming. Well, it actually already came out, but for PC it doesn't come out till the end of the month. I think it's like Ace Combat 7, which is just an alternate Earth Top Gun-like game made by a Japanese company.
Okay.
But it's less simmy and more just like arcadey. And that one's going to have like VR set up. So hopefully I can just go in there and have fun with that one. That one should be cool.
All right. We'll check it out. We'll be waiting for you to map out your controls. Get some videos up.
It's been an hour of me turning on the auxiliary power unit.
I was watching one because they had I think it was actually a Russian game, and it was a flight simulator of the plane I like. Oh, now I'm drawing a blank on it, of course. Oh, the MiG, the Foxbat.
Yeah.
But how that worked was the guy had a flight stick, and he had like throttles like on his desk, but then he was using the mouse, and you could zoom in on the controls inside the cockpit. You could switch to cockpit view, and he was flipping all the switches you have to flip to start the
yeah that's probably DCS. Yeah, you can do that.
the
Although
MiG.
when I was doing it, for some reason, whenever you have to do, I'm not sure if there's something I had to do, but everything I clicked nothing was working when I clicked on it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you can do it. Yeah, because there's weird stuff where in one of the games that they were playing on Flight Club, they're looking for a button, and they're like, because there's like 100 buttons. They're like, where the fuck is that thing? It's like, oh, pull the stick back, and so he pulls the stick back, and because it's like, mimicking that, it's like, oh, the button was like behind the stick. You had to pull it out of the way to get to it. It's like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mean, this flight simulator even had the weird directional guidance things that the Foxbats had.
Yeah.
Where it would be like beep, 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 and then as you got closer, this graphic would appear because one line toned one way and one line toned another, and then once they started beeping rapidly and cross, that meant you were in the area you were supposed to be or whatever, which was like totally 70s tech. Like they don't do that shit anymore, but it's like, oh wow, they simulated that down to that. Huh?
Yeah,
when you were in cockpit mode, you couldn't see shit.
Yeah.
Fives were known for is they had they had to design the cockpits to withstand all the just the heat of going that fast, but you didn't have a lot of visibility out of them.
Yeah, it's called DCS World. I'm not sure. Well, I'll see if it has that one, but basically it's free. They have like 3 free planes. You got a P. Well, I guess it's not a P-51 Mustang. It's called a T-51 Mustang.
Okay.
Because it's a Mustang, but it doesn't have like weapons on it. It was like a trainer. Yeah, it's a trainer. But you do get the Su-25T Frogfoot.
Okay.
Which is sort of considered like the Russian equivalent to the A-10 Warthog.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me see. Yeah, because usually they do American planes because they sell better, but this is a Russian company that does this. Well, actually, it's weird because that F-14 one, it's on this platform, this DCS platform, but a different company is making it.
Oh, okay.
So there's other companies that add stuff to this. But yeah, let's see what. Let's see what else. Yeah, they got a FA-18 Hornet. That's $80 just for that one plane. Got that F-14. It's not out yet, but you can. It's on sale for $72 right now.
Give us your money now.
MiG-29, a Yak-52. Okay, that's just an F-86F Sabre. A MiG-15 BIS. That's an old one. Let me get to a MiG-21. No, that's an old one. Yeah, there's the P-51 Mustang. That's $40. The Black Shark, yeah, that's the that twin rotor Russian helicopter.
Oh, okay.
I also want to get a helicopter one at some point because that's when the foot pedals come to use. Because that's
right.
So F-15C, Su-27, Su-33, Su-25. I mean, they don't do the Foxbat. Maybe that was just a different Russian flight simulator that does the Foxbat.
Yeah, it seemed to be like everything. There was a lot of Cyrillic even on the screen. So it's probably some homebrew thing they did. Those Russians, they just let's put 2 props on everything.
Yeah, I think because it was the way it worked, you didn't have to have a tail rotor because the way the
it just canceled itself out.
Yeah,
Torsional spin. Yeah.
Or what do they call that? Is it the governor or what the fuck is it that like changes the angle of the rotors? That has a cool name.
Collective.
Yeah, the collective. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, listen to Bill Burr talk about that. Oh, you got to pull on the collective and do this and that. I don't know anything about helicopters except they're just when the guys from the Life Flight helicopter let me and Grayson and my wife sit in the truck where it took off like 20 feet from us. And I was like, oh my God, because the whole truck was shaking everything. Yeah. That is incredible. But those Life Flight helicopters, I guess, are also super fast. Like they're designed to, they don't care about how much fuel they use and just their design. It was the U of M Life Flight. And they, yeah, those are really fast. Like the guys that fly those, when they come in for a landing at U of M, they start heading towards where they're landing. It's like, they're just going to come in and then they're just going to slide in and bring the tail down and boom, they're down. And they're getting the person off the helicopter right away. But those things are immensely powerful. I mean, it takes a lot of force to, what did the one guy say? Just beat your way through the air.
Yeah, a helicopter doesn't fly, it beats the air into submission or something like that.
So, German humor.
Yeah. So Netflix has I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically comedy from throughout the world. And first when I looked at it, it was just some comedians from the U.S. And it's like, how is this comedy throughout the world? But there's like a thing on there you have to select, and they have all these different comedy shows from all over the world. So I was like, well, I'll look up German comedy and see if I can follow that at all, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, it's weird. And maybe this is weird with, the difference between American comedy and other comedy. You can kind of see this with Russell Peterson because he's kind of like the biggest world comic.
Yeah.
Where it's part comedy, part like self-help guru or something, or what would you call it?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like, yeah, we're here to be funny, but I've got a message. It's like message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a lot of that.
Like Sam Kinison was.
And or any comedian when they get too big for themselves and it's like, well, if I'm this successful, then I must preach to the world.
The Messiah.
and then they fall from grace. um, but no, like because a lot of comedy is representative of sort of like lower income and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or people that are not necessarily like the traditional people of the world they are. So like a lot of the comedians in Germany are Turkish immigrants.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah. Or at least that's all Netflix has presented to me is
Right.
Turkish immigrant comedians. And they talk about, learning German and all that stuff and how everything's different, but they're all the same, and that's pretty much the message with all these comedians. It's like,
Because the actual Germans feel that way about it. Love you here. I could tell you some things the Germans have to say about the Turks, but just be blind racism going on. I'm not going to get a community strike against my head.
But yeah, so that was interesting. Yeah, so just like, because I think they have like, Britain and Ireland and South Africa, which I wanted to check that out. Like, what's South Africa comedy?
Yeah, what's funny down there?
In Australia and all, it's a whole list of comedians. I don't know how long. I think they're like 30-minute segments or something like that. But yeah, Netflix has a
I thought it
lot.
was about like actual German humor.
No, it's just like how they just have like a bunch of comedian specials.
Yeah.
So this is just the German section of this it was like 3 different comedian specials from Germany. But you can go to any country that they have listed, and there's just a bunch of comedians. Because like they even have the U.S. and it's like Ari Shafir and some other people or whatever.
Huh.
And it's called like Netflix like comedy around the world. And that's when I first clicked it was just a bunch of comedians from the U.S. It was like, what the fuck? How's this comedy around the world? Like these all I was like, oh, and then there's a selection for all the different countries.
Huh.
But yeah, Netflix has gone global with all their comedy stuff. Because yeah, most of the comedy stuff I ignore because it's like somebody I have no idea who they are, but it's like but they're like huge just because they're more internationally huge and rather than sort of alternative humor huge here.
Yeah, they're not big in America, but like they're huge in some other countries. I always like the weird acts from America that like you've never heard of, but they're actually American acts. But like in Japan, they're the gods of whatever, but you've never even heard of them here.
Yeah.
Like who's that? I forget. There was a guy, like some kind of musician. It's like you've never fucking heard of him, but in Japan he's massive. He doesn't speak Japanese, doesn't know anything about their culture, just works there and makes a lot of money because the Japanese like him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what kind of music it is. Probably that electronic shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I heard about that. And then there's people that it's like a lot of American actors in Australia that are big on America or Australian TV. You've never heard of them here. There's like 4 or 5
Yeah.
people
I know there's some comedian where he's like he's always like doing when a known comedian does like the Edinburgh comedy festival or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Like they always talk to this guy, and like he's American, but he has like this huge talk show in Australia, and that's where he's most known for. But nobody knows who the fuck he is here.
Yeah. It's like, who's this guy?
It's like, oh, he's got the #1 talk show in Australia. He's like Leno in Australia.
Never heard of him. I did hear something bad about Australia the other day, though. Because in that hemisphere, it's summer, and right now, and it's like 120 degrees in Perth,
Yeah.
and their pigs and horses and cattle are all dying. It's like they don't know what the fuck to do. It's like, yeah, it's a challenging environment to live in. 120 degrees. That's a civilization stop. What is 125? It's like life stops, right? Like if it gets much hotter than that, you can't function.
Well, that's internal temperature, but you can negate that.
Well, yeah. That was when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's nuts. It's time to move.
No, the most temperature I've been was 109 degrees out in the desert. And it was raining. It was the fucking weirdest thing.
I think it would evaporate before it hits the ground.
Yep, that's exactly what I thought.
There's no way it's gonna make it all the way down. Yeah, there it is.
And there, because it almost never rains, when it rains, it fucks everything up because the soil isn't used to be. It just fucking just collapses because it doesn't, it's not meant to be mixed with water.
Oh, it doesn't get muddy. It just turns into like, just liquid mud
Yeah,
or like liquid sand. Yeah.
yeah.
That's weird. Oh, my Stuka model's come along a little bit.
I don't think I was aware of this.
Yeah, this is the one that we're making for the model club.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, and you had to swastika, not to swastika.
Yeah, I decided to swastika.
You did
It's
both.
I'd actually found the photograph of this particular plane. It's in black and white, of course, but I was like, oh, okay, that has some detail in the photograph that the box didn't. Because this was the one that it flew into Austria. This was one of the ones they took a picture of when they had the unification with Austria, but they sent bombers in. But yeah, even Stacy noticed that. She was like, honey, why did you put swastikas on the wings? I said, because it's a German plane from the Second World War. And she's like, oh, okay. So I was like, yeah, this wasn't just a random plane. I'm just going to put swastikas on. So I'm just going to build the next Machine and Krieger thing and put swastikas on it. It's weird, though, because this kit was made in Spain or something. Like, the swastikas were in 4 pieces. Like, they couldn't send you a complete swastika. You had to.
Yeah.
My son was asking me about, he's like, why is that illegal in other countries? I said, well, Germany, because it fucking destroyed their country, and it was evil, and they did horrible things because of it, and everywhere else is because they got their ass kicked by the Germans. But yeah, so that's why swastikas are illegal. Here we don't care because it's like, well, we didn't lose that war, so fuck it. It's becoming the Civil War now. It's happened so long ago. It's like, yeah, fucked up shit happened. That's in the past. The future is always bright. But yeah, so that's it's coming along. They say it's not a contest, but I know I'm gonna get my ass kicked. See all the mistakes I've made. Just like, oh, that's fucked up. It actually went together for a $10 model. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty big for a $10 model.
Yeah, I think that was the discount he gave us because we were all buying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not it's kind of cool. I've learned a lot about them. I didn't know that the pilots could pull G's so hard that they blacked out in them. And it has an automatic system where you set the altimeter to where you're, to like 20 feet or 10 feet below where you're going to turn and drop. And if you don't respond on the stick, it would automatically pull up for you because it assumed you blacked out.
Huh.
Like, that's actually pretty innovative because this plane was outdated by the time World War II started. This was designed in the 30s. This was one of the planes that the Germans could produce in number that got their economy moving in like their mid-30s. So by the time World War II started, this plane was like 8 years old. It was a very effective dive bomber. That's all it was, though. And they made so many of them because they didn't build like super fortresses and stuff to bomb like we did. They had these, and they had a few Heinkel bombers, but they weren't very effective. And they didn't have the giant, we just sent school buses full of bombs over there. They didn't have the industry to really do that. And because we didn't even have single seat dive bombers, we did in the Navy, but not for. We used artillery mainly and big, like I said, the big school buses full.
We better send 20 planes to hit one target. And we had the best targeting system in the world.
Yes.
Well, mostly because we bombed at day.
Yeah, I mean, we were, yeah.
Because we're being nice about it.
Yeah, and we wouldn't.
The British would bomb at night. Like, fuck it. We don't want our guys to get killed. We don't care if we kill a bunch of civilians or not.
Not only would the British do that, but they'd also put delay fuses on bombs so they wouldn't go off until like 2 hours after they were dropped, so they could kill all the people that were going in to rescue and stuff. When they were like bombing Hamburg and stuff, they're like, yeah, fill the bombs with napalm, put delay fuses on them because it's way more expensive to treat burns than it is concussion and shrapnel. And it's like, what are you talking about?
You mean war crimes? Yes.
Well, but then you look at what we did to Japan.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's this I know Oliver Stone is not an objective source, but he's an effective filmmaker. And when he did that Real History of the United States, I was like, oh, come here and watch this, Grayson. They had the animation about just the firebombing of Tokyo and just all the bombings in Japan in general before the atom bombs were dropped. And the guy was narrating, and he said Japan was subjected to the most comprehensive form of bombing ever done in the world's history. And they showed all the planes and missions, and they basically said there wasn't an acre of habitable area that we didn't bomb or try to bomb at one time or another in Japan. But they showed specifically the firebombing of Tokyo. And they're like, the way they did it, because they did it in waves, it was actually designed to cause a firestorm. Like, they deliberately did that. That's when Curtis LeMay was like smoking a cigar, talking to the guys. It's like, we better win this fucker or we're going to be put on the gallows. He actually said that to people. It's like, we got to go for the win on this one, guys, because we are going to burn in hell. But then again, when you look at things like the Bataan Death March, the invasion of the Philippines, the invasion of Korea, the invasion of Indochina, it's like there are no clean hands over there. It's just like just Oliver Stone talking about the American side. It's like, yeah, what we did was bad, but it was still fundamentally war. We weren't like waging war on the ground against the civilian population by and large, but the Japanese were. So or just killing people who had already surrendered. We did that, but we didn't do a lot of it. It wasn't like
somebody got angry about it, and then nobody brought it up again.
Yeah.
Hey, don't do that. Never mind.
Yeah, so there's no but I mean that's why fundamentally I'm against war. It's because all this shit's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen, so don't do it. The best way to win is not to play the game like in war games, because unless you're comfortable with toddlers being used as bayonet practice, don't start fucking wars, because it's going to happen. Or do it if you're comfortable with it. I mean, just I don't want to know about it. By benefit, who cares? Do whatever. As long as the gas is cheap, and good.
This economy is fueled by the deaths of many babies. Don't tell me that, but keep going.
Yeah. That's horrible.
Good work. Good team.
You're gonna go get them, right? You are. Good luck. You won't see me there.
I'm reading a new book it's kind of interesting. It deals with cloning.
Okay.
It's called Six Wakes.
Okay, why have I heard of that before?
Oh, it's a sci-fi book, maybe. It's by
Okay.
Mur Lafferty, I think is her name.
Okay.
It's basically like it goes to the I'm only in like the 5th chapter, but it has interesting like where it kind of delves into like what clones are in this universe and what can and can't be done. So like clones can't reproduce, but you can basically like it's sort of like in Altered Carbon where you have like the sleeves and stuff like that.
Right.
Where it's like if you die, this vat of goo can just like make your clone, and like you're good to go again, and then it'll map your whatever your recent memory is to that clone, and like you keep going, so like you just never die, and stuff like you can only have one clone at a time, and like whatever the newest clone is like retains all rights to everything, and like you're considered a child of yourself and all this weird shit.
Somebody went deep, huh?
Yeah. So yeah, they're on a spaceship, and it's like a long it's a deep space spaceship, and so these people are basically truckers, and you know they go as long as they can. They die. They bring out a new clone, and they keep driving the ship, and they have a bunch of rich people in cryo sleep in the ship. And so book starts off. They wake up, and they're in the gravity is off. They're in the cloning bay, and there's just like blood and dead people everywhere, and it's them. And then they don't have, and like their memory is from when they started, like they started this journey.
Okay.
And then like they look at the people and they're like, oh, they're like 45 years old. Like this is me 25 years from now. It's like this has been going on for 25 years. What the fuck happened? And so it's just kind of an interesting like murder mystery and clones and all this weird shit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Altered Carbon, I like the story. Well, because there they had cortical stacks.
Yeah.
And it was built into the most survivable part of your body, which is inside your spinal column. So if they could recover that, you'd always reboot with the same memories. And then they had psychosurgery where they would kind of edit out your death because some people didn't like to come back after knowing, especially if they died horribly.
Yeah.
Because remember in, I forget if it was Woken Furies or Fallen Angels, they had the guy who was the EOD technician, and he died 250 times by having bombs go off, and they said by the time they put him in his last sleeve, he was literally babbling and insane because they didn't have time to edit out his death. So he remembered dying trying to defuse bombs like 200 times. They said by the time they brought him back the last time, he just started crying and shitting his pants because he died 200 sometimes. I'm gonna have to check that book out. I've seen that book mentioned somewhere as like books to read. So
Yeah, it was on one of the giant bomb lists. It's like it's Rory. He handles like their he used to be a writer for GameSpot, and he did Screened when they were Whiskey Media, and now he's like their store guy. Like he handles all the orders and stuff like that. But occasionally he shows up on the show. But anyways, because he's so busy, he doesn't really have time to play video games, and so he created a list of his favorite books that year, and that was one of them. And like that sounds cool, and so I bought it.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those like I had extra credits lying around. And I just finished Rise and Kill First. I was like, that sounds cool. And it's like only it's book on tape, and I think it's only 9 hour long. So,
Okay.
and Rise and Kill First was like 32 hours long. So
Yes,
this will be a quick breeze.
Yeah, I'm halfway through 45 hours into the new history of the Holocaust. It was a book I was waiting for to come out on Audible for a long time because those books are a lot easier for me to listen to
Yeah.
than read because some of it's just dense.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, the new spin on it is how much did Hitler know and how, it's basically like how much of a concerted effort was the Holocaust versus how much of it was just slapdash. Like, we're going to do this now. Oh, no, we're doing this now. And it's a lot more this is all like historical. It's based on documents because they unearthed a bunch of documents in 2000 that they didn't know, the German government didn't know they had. And so they kind of reconstructed it, and all these historians, especially the British historians, have been going through these documents and kind of stringing them together on those big wall maps. It's like, well, this document was sent in, and this was signed by him, and this, and yeah, it's like, oh, the Holocaust was like, it was one of the reasons it was, one of the many reasons it was so horrible was it was so ad hoc. It's like, because like some of the things that were death camps weren't meant to be death camps. And they were, because I forget which ones, like Auschwitz was really designed as a detention facility because it was made out of, like, the reason it still exists to this day is it was made out of stone and steel. Like, that was to be a fixed camp where, because concentration camp just means literally concentration of people in one area.
Yeah.
It doesn't, but a death camp, and they say the word in German and I can't remember what it was, but that was actually a different thing. Because there were camps that they like more efficiently killed people. There was none where more people died than Auschwitz, but there were other camps that were more that were actually designed for, like, I think it was like Bergen-Belsen, or some of them like the ones with the big giant crematorias, like they don't exist anymore because they were all made out of wood, and they were like temporary underground structures, like the gas chambers. They just basically had giant crematoria attached to them, but they had no provision for holding people. They were just supposed to come off the train, go into the gas chamber, and then be bulldozed into the crematoria, which never worked because they kept coming up with new ways and new ideas to do it, and I didn't realize like how many times all the people in charge, like Hitler and Himmler, they kept changing their minds. Like, no, we're going to deport people. Well, no one wants them. Well, we're going to kill them. It's like, well, we're not going to kill that many. And then as the war got worse and worse, it was like, kill everyone. And but it was amazing. Like, we think about it like it was this succinct kind of, this was always the plan from the 1930s. And then you realize, well, no, it was all thrown together. Because kind of the horrible thesis I get from the novel is like, this was bad. It could have been way worse if there was actually a concerted effort to do this. Like, this was our only purpose of existing as the German state, was just to wipe out as many Jews as possible in Europe. It's like, oh, they could have easily got everyone. And because a lot more things were done with guns and shooting people, like they killed a lot more people that way, but that was all just a huge mess. Because they were talking about how they'd shoot a bunch of people outside these towns in Poland and Russia. They dig these huge trenches, bury these bodies, and then everyone's well is poisoned because there's like 10,000 rotting corpses in the ground. And they were like, this is a problem. We must solve this problem. And it was so succinct, but there were so many different people doing different things. But yeah, I've been waiting for this book for like 2 years to be available in audio because I wanted to hear like this guy's concept, because also part of it is like, this is why I mean, you've heard about the Holocaust deniers, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons that gained so much traction is these people would, they would take these logical fallacy of like, first the Holocaust never happened, when there's like all kinds of evidence it did, and then they would be like, well, you see, these places weren't designed to kill this many people. They could never kill this many people because this facility was never intended to do that. And actually they were right in saying that, is looking at it from an engineering standpoint. It's like, no, this wasn't a very good program because it didn't, if their goals were to do X, the amount of manpower, material, and planning they put into it was Y. It doesn't work out. And so that's why a lot of Holocaust denial got traction, is because they were pointing out these logical fallacies. And it's like, yeah, because it was done on the fly. It's not because it didn't happen. It's because they were just throwing this. They were in the middle of fighting a two-front war, which they were started to lose in 43, and they were just throwing shit together. Like, let's try this, or let's try that. It's not like, see, the thing about Holocaust denial is you have to assume, like most conspiracy theories, that like it's ultimate, control on one side. It's like they are in control of everything. And it's either they did this or they didn't, but because a few things don't add up, it's automatically means, the whole thing's bullshit. It's like, no. Building a fucking dam, they run into all kinds of problems. Just things that aren't absolutely satanically evil endeavors. You run into a lot of structural problems, and so did this, but people find those problems and they kind of wedge their bullshit in there and try to break it open. Like, no, see, it didn't happen. It's all a lie. So that's, but this is based on a lot of, I guess, in terms of history, new things, like stuff found in 2000 that's finally being put together and reviewed and published. So, yeah. So if you want to go 40 hours deep on the Holocaust, or not,
40 hours of sadness and bureaucracy.
Yeah, and so much of this was just the most banal bureaucratic things, like bureaucratic fights over territories. And it's like, no, I get these people. No, I get them. And both these guys want to do is kill people. But they're actually willing to, like, well, I'm going to the Fuhrer. We're going to get this straightened out. And it's fucking lunatics. So anyway, we watched a movie.
Yes. 1999's Payback.
Yes, with Mel Gibson, which I rewatched actually just like a couple hours ago.
And I had no idea that there was a director's cut that is wildly different.
Oh, I didn't know that either. I just watched the standard version.
Yeah, because the standard version on Prime is available for free. The director's cut costs money.
Oh, well, that's probably why then.
So I did not get that. So like Christopherson, kind of a key point in the movie,
Yeah.
never in the director's cut.
Really? Why? Is there a reason?
Yeah, because at some point they fired the director and they finished this movie the way like Mel Gibson and the producers wanted.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
So like things like with like the dog, you see him at the end, he's like, oh, he's okay, he's got a bandage. It's like, no, the dog was dead in the director's cut. Things like that. They're trying to make it a bit more lighter for this gritty crime drama.
I remember watching this a long time ago and sort of liking it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird. It's sort of a weird movie because it's definitely like that. What they call that, like that neo noir.
Yeah, well, it's I feel like this movie was like daring you to hate Mel Gibson,
Yeah,
but really, it's like, nah, you like Mel Gibson, at least at the time.
yeah. I mean, for different reasons. For actually the character, as opposed to this.
Because like that was like the tagline from the movie is "Get ready to root for the bad guy."
Yeah.
Which was different in Australia because root means to have sex with, I guess there. So
They would have been like, oh, fuck that. Do that. Can't do an Australian accent.
you just kind of extend things and talk nasally. Nah, I can't do it right. Shrimp on the bobby.
Yeah.
No, still can't do it. That's not a knife. There you go. Knife. There you go. That's the only thing I can say in Australia.
So, yeah, I mean, he is the bad guy in this, but everyone else is worse.
Yeah.
So he's the least. Get ready to root for the least bad guy.
Which is, I don't know. Tarantino is doing shit like that. Oh, I guess it's actually based on like a Lee Marvin movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is kind of a remake. But I never saw the Lee Marvin movie.
Yeah, well, this is that guy. He wrote a lot of.
L.A. Confidential.
Yeah. Well, the guy who wrote this book wrote a lot of.
Oh, the book. Never mind. I was talking about the writer director.
No, is it the book? This guy. What was his name? Well, he wrote under the name Richard Stark. Was a lot of them. But it was like that pulp noir. It was all the hard-boiled dialogues. Just like dime books you'd buy in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
This was one of those, but kind of set in modern times, but shot sort of looked like an old movie because you never know exactly what time it is. Because
Well, also, I read something that said the director's cut also had a different look to it, like it was more colorful. Because I thought because we watched Three Kings, and that had that silver nitrate reclamation, so like the blacks are more deeper and stuff like that, and it kind of has a strange look, silvery look to it almost.
yeah,
And I thought that's what they did here, but it sounds like they just put a blue tint on the movie, so I don't know.
oh, it was a quite a cool looking movie. It fit what it was trying to be.
Yeah.
The dialogue in this movie was all fucked up. Really strange dialogue.
Yeah.
But Mel Gibson he always can pay it off, or at least at this time he could. But yeah, there was some definitely some.
But the thing, I guess the thing that almost makes him like have honor somewhat is that so like they rob this like what Chinese bookie or something like that,
Yeah.
and they get $140,000, and it's like, oh, half of it's mine, so he gets $70,000. And then his friend or his coworker or whatever, his cohort, rips him off and shoots him, or his wife shoots him, and then like he takes the money, and then so he goes through all his trouble. He just wants his cut of the money they got, so he just wants $70,000, and then everybody thinks he wants $140,000. Like, no, it's just $70,000.
Yeah, it keeps getting bounced around because that's like his like honor code is
Yeah.
like, no, I just want the money I'm owed, not. No.
But he's also, in the beginning, he's just like, stealing people's identities and credit cards and ripping
Yeah,
people off. And
Good of a human being. Yeah, his partner's name was the bad guy was there. Yeah, his name Val Resnick. And Lucy Liu's in this as a weird sex dominatrix.
Yeah.
I think this was one of her first major movies.
It's I mean, she probably did something before, but I don't know. I don't know what her first big break was.
For some reason I think it was this, but I don't know.
Oh, maybe it was this, but
Her name was different before too, because in the opening credit she's credited as Lucy something Liu.
oh,
She had
okay.
a middle name. And then of course we have James Coburn, who's funny in this. The guy it's like $70,000. My fucking clothes cost more.
Oh, is that the guy that says, "Man, that's just mean"?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in all the trailer. Yeah, it's funny to watch the trailer because in the trailer they try to make this movie look like a fucking comedy or something like that, and it's way darker than that.
Well, yeah. So you got James Coburn and Chris Christopherson, and then like a bunch of character actors, like the guy, like William Devane, the guy who shoots in The Office when he's on the phone with her.
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, you're either gonna give me what I want, or I'm gonna shoot him." And she's like, "No." And he's boom. He just fucking, and who's the guy who plays the guy who gets massacred in the cab? I forget that guy, but you've seen that guy.
Yeah, he's like a comedian kind of actor, the kind of like nasally whiny guy, and he just holds him up as a human shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Piemer. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like cast in this movie you'll recognize. And I don't know if I'd had seen his partner, and he looked very familiar. But yeah. Oh, they originally had an idea of shooting this film in black and white. That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy who directed. He was mostly a writer, and this was like his first directing gig.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of explains a lot of problems. Yeah, usually people that start out writing, and then when they finally get a chance to direct, they like worship their own story, and like that's when like if any kind of production problems arise, like, oh, we need to change this around. They're like, then they try to assert the dominance, like, no, fuck you, I want my vision, like you. And like a lot of this happens all the time in Hollywood, where it's like they knowingly buy a script, but they want to make a different movie.
Yeah, which seems weird.
It's like, why'd you buy this script? Oh, we thought the title was cool.
Yeah, yeah, you couldn't pay some guys in a room to know what the title. Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with ego.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to put their thumbprint on it, which I always thought was weird. It's like, hey, could we make $200 million doing it the way the guy wrote it? The answer is either yes or no. And if the answer is yes, then fuck it. Let's do it. But you never hear about that. But I don't think Hollywood's a practical place. I think it's a silly place.
Yeah.
A lot of ego and people jerking off into the rhododendrons or whatever Harvey Weinstein was doing.
But also, I think this was when Mel Gibson was getting like $30 million a picture, because this movie apparently cost $80 million to make, and it doesn't look like an $80 million movie.
No, it doesn't. I think it was a lot of the money, because almost none of all these actors but they're not like leading guys or people with like huge careers at the time. So yeah, I think this movie had a lot of a lot of it was him.
And also, like, I remember the first time I watched it, I used to think this movie was really cool. Now I watched it this time, it seemed less cool, but I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't as cool as I remember it being.
Yeah, it seems like a poor man's Quentin Tarantino movie almost.
Yeah.
Because they do violence well in it, but then it takes like weird breaks. And then there's a stupid fucking romance with the other prostitute.
Yeah.
All of it, where it's like it just hits the brakes. Like, well, this movie had pretty good momentum, and now we're hitting the brakes. But again, I think Mel Gibson, James Coburn, and Chris Christopherson kind of carried the film.
Yeah.
Because whenever they show up, well, Mel Gibson's always in it, but yeah, there was.
Oh yeah, and also the sign of troubled production, voiceovers.
Yeah, the voiceovers. Yeah, that always.
But that only happened in the beginning and the end, so that's a lot more. It's not like Blade Runner where it's like throughout and like, oh, we need to explain this. Well, let's deliberately explain. Or actually, Blade Runner had a weird thing where it's like it didn't even deliberately explain things to the audience. It just like let's make Deckard look more like a human. It's like, well, that's not the point.
I don't know if they did that in this case just for troubled production or because that was kind of a trope of noir films.
Yeah.
Was the detective would get, it's always midnight in the painted jungle or, whatever nonsense they would say in those movies. So
Well,
it might have been that too.
Well, like the whole opening scene where he's getting operated on, the guy drinking the alcohol and stuff like that, and then that wasn't.
I think his wounds with whiskey.
Yeah, that's not in the director's cut like at all.
Okay.
I forget where it starts, but yeah, it doesn't start there. Yeah, and it just abruptly ends, and like he's like, she agreed to quit hooking, and I agreed to stop shooting people. And it's like, we're not aiming that high, and it's like, okay,
let's go to Canada, start over on $70,000.
Well, someone equated it. Well, yeah, the first time I watched this movie, I thought this was kind of like out of time, like it didn't really have a time, but it was trying to be 70s.
Yeah.
But then there seemed to be like modern things in it. Like in the 70s you had a car phone, but like I kind of just like I didn't know.
Chris Christopherson had the old style car phone where it was like a phone.
Yeah, well, yeah, every phone in this movie is a rotary phone. So, but then like at some point it has a Beretta, and I was like, were those out then? And I looked up, yeah, they're released in '76, so yeah, they would be around then.
Very expensive, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a holdover, I think, from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Didn't this movie come between Lethal Weapon 4 and The Patriot?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Kind of sandwich between those two.
Yeah, because Lethal Weapon 4 was the year before, and then this, and then actually no, I think Ransom was before that. Something. Yeah, they're all. I mean, an actor can do like 4 movies in a year, so.
Yeah, he's not like producing it or directing it, not editing it. It was a fun movie. It's cool for its time and its place. It's got some interesting visual elements and some really weird dialogue, which is almost funny to watch.
I like some of the specifics of it, like when they find out, it's like, they weren't wearing their seatbelts, and they would like rig up that car to just.
I don't know that.
They rig up that car to just run headfirst into it, and they got like the fucking like racing seatbelt, like 8-point seatbelts or whatever, and he's got a mouthpiece in.
Yeah.
It's like, that's good details. And then
there was some. He's a very observant guy. He's obviously not stupid, but he's willing to kill a lot of people for a very small amount.
Yeah.
Kind of strange, but I guess that's just like part of the. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, but the ending sucks. So.
Well, I did like that he figures out how to like get out of the car or out of the back or the trunk of the car and stuff like that. That's kind of neat. But then he just blows everything up, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's over.
Well, the shootout's kind of cool when he's shooting the Chinese triad people in the Suburban.
Yeah.
Because he just holds a gun in each hand and just unloads into the car. And when the guy's trying to run him over, you just get under the car because it's a big 4x4. It has good ground clearance, and you shoot people through the floor. A lot of because cars don't stop bullets, unlike most movies where it's like only the windshield shatters. Like, no, it'll shoot right through both sides of the car too.
Then also that one part where he cuts the gas line, and then he just pops up, and it's like, oh, he's right behind us, and he blows the car up.
Yeah.
And he frames those dirty cops. Hey,
yeah.
Can you hold on to this for me?
Yeah, there's some good elements to it. It's definitely. I mean, it's a fun movie. It seemed like it was an hour long. As I watched it, it was like, oh, this is it, huh?
Yeah,
okay.
It just goes by. Yeah, I think it's an hour and 40 minutes, but yeah, it seems shorter than that. But
yeah,
it's not asking much of you, so.
Yeah, I mean, I was painting German pilots.
Huh. Is that like felt on the top there, or is that just plastic?
No, it's just plastic. It's just different color.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
It's all painting. Just more evil blue-eyed men. I seem to only paint Nazi figures. I need to branch out into different figures.
Different hates.
Well, these guys, I don't know if the Luftwaffe guys were all Nazi. So Payback, check it out.
It's
Mel
on.
Gibson.
It's on Prime.
It's on Prime. You can watch it.
If you've seen all the Quentin Tarantino movies and all the Elmore Leonard adaptations, then you can get to this.
Yeah. You can see like Mel Gibson at in kind of the twilight of his career, him or anyone else. I mean, he's still around, still alive.
Yeah, he's still making movies.
Yep.
Some with Daddy's Home 2 or some shit.
Last one of his we saw was Hacksaw Ridge,
Oh yeah.
which was actually a good movie.
Oh, he directed it. Was he in that?
No, he directed it.
Okay.
I think his acting days are kind of over.
Well, no, he's still acting. Like I said, he's in Daddy's Home 2. He was in Get the Gringo or whatever. That seemed to be kind of an independent movie though.
Yeah. Vaguely remember that.
But yeah, he's not making $30 million paydays anymore acting.
No.
But when you direct The Passion of the Christ, you don't really have to work a day ever again.
Yeah, when you spend $8 million to make a movie and make $1 billion, you take your dad down to Panama to get stem cell treatment. Well, that's about it for me. Do you have anything else for this week?
Oh, tons of things that we'll talk about later.
All right. Well, this week for the American Creed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin. Goodbye, America.